Hi there, I am Woof and today I'd like to talk to you about democracy. What is it? Is it always a good thing, the answer to all of the world's problems? And what are the threats that democracy has to overcome nowadays? Let's begin. As usual in the case of big smart words, their origin can be found in Latin or Greek.
Give me a word. Any word, and I show you how the root of that word is Greek.
This being no exception. The term comes from mashing two Greek words together. The first is demos, meaning a large number of people, and the second one is krateo, meaning to rule, to govern. This is what you'll probably hear if you ask a random person what democracy means. You'll probably hear the rule of the majority or the rule of the people. Because there is no fixed definition of the word and the meaning has changed since its 5th century BC origin, these vague explanations are what is most common now. It also enabled us to create many variations of democracy, ranging from constitutional monarchy with an elected parliament and a king or queen as the head of state, whose function nowadays is mostly ceremonial, through such common forms as a republic with elected governments with chancellors or prime ministers leading them, up to such forms as guided democracies, where the people's choice is suggested by the ruling. If you think about it, the word democracy is now being automatically perceived as a universally positive notion. The vagueness and the positivity became the reason that the adjective democratic has been often used as a name of some not very democratic countries, like East Germany, German Democratic Republic, the communist-controlled state with Stasi, which is described as the most oppressive and worst secret police agency in history. This is the state that shot its own citizens for trying to cross the Berlin Wall. The modern take on the subject requires a little bit more from countries to use the term justifiably and focuses on the parliament variant. Some of the conditions for a country to be called a democracy were formed by Larry Diamond, a political sciences professor at Stanford, whose name make him sound like a Las Vegas magician, in my opinion. The first condition is the election system, which should be open, free and fair. Now this sounds pretty obvious, but in detail it is a fairly new concept considering the Swiss region of Appenzell-Innerrhoder granted women their voting rights in 1991 and Saudi Arabia enabled women to vote 2 years ago, yes, 2015. This open idea might not have been seen by the ancient Greeks as something positive. Aristotle warned us that democracy can very easily turn itself into a bad version of governing, ochlocracy.
Give me a word.
Okay, we got this. Ochlocracy means the rule of the mob with complete disregard to any laws or rules. Some historians argue that this was a direct reason for the fall of Rome. Some people say that the system most common nowadays could be qualified as an ochlocracy. The infamous Polish member of the European Parliament, Janusz Korwin-Mikke,
Janusz Korwin-Mikke, look at this man,
wrote on his blog that giving voting rights to women, the insane criminals, minors, was a mistake and might probably lead to giving voting rights to gorillas. The second requirement listed by the magnificent Larry Diamond is participation in civic life. If you start hearing the phrases "I'm not interested in politics" or "I don't vote, I don't believe in voting" more often and often, then you should check if your country is not in trouble. Citizens who are conscious to current events are well-informed voters. And those who abstain from voting completely are a whole different problem, because they could be automatically counted as an opposing electorate to those who win. Let me show you something. Here's the pie chart showing the latest election results in Poland. It looks looks pretty standard. Winning party with 37.58%. Here's the runner-up, and all of the other parties are here. It looks pretty standard, and all of the election results are shown this way. The situation changes, however, when you take into consideration the electoral turnout. Now this piece of the pie, which is almost half, are the people who are eligible to vote but did not vote. That creates a situation where more than 3/4 of voters did not vote for the party which is in power right now. That may cause some trouble in the future. What kind of trouble? It remains to be seen. The third on the diamond list of conditions for a healthy democracy are human rights of all citizens. In case you are a North Korean official watching this in secret and you don't know what human rights are, let me go over the list real quick. Right to life, freedom from torture, freedom from slavery, right to a fair trial, freedom of thought, conscience and religion, freedom of movement and freedom of speech. If any of these is either limited or violated, you might not be living in a democratic society. The fourth and last of the democratic characteristics, according to Larry Diamond, is equality to the rule of law. No one should be above the law, and you should never hear any elected or state official saying that the law is not the most important thing.
Saying something's more important than the law.
Of course. Of course,
Right.
the law is not most important.
So what is the biggest threat to democracy nowadays? In my opinion, it's people.
A person is smart. People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it.
It was a democratic election that let this man rise to power. His party won the 1932 election in Germany with a landslide result of 37% with an 84% electoral turnout. In time, the democratically elected eradicated democracy in Germany. So in a way, democracy is like human race. It is prone to self-destruct. Why is that? Because we are very easily swayed and manipulated, and political marketing specialists know that well. In 1990, Poland had its first free local government elections since World War II. That's a year earlier than the women in Appenzell Innerrhoden could vote. My mother ran for a seat on the city council on behalf of Solidarność, the social movement which turned from a trade union to a movement that basically ended communism in Poland. I will probably make a video on Solidarity later on. Anyway, the Solidarity candidates met with foreign political marketing specialists. They had to learn some new things because almost all of them were amateurs. They had no experience in campaigning. So what they have learned in Too Long Didn't Read form is you have to promise. You have to give as much promises as you can. Nobody will remember all of these promises later on. The most important thing is winning the election. That was a cold shower for my mom, who, like most people going into civic duty, was an idealist at heart. So in my opinion, the biggest threat to democracy is populism. Telling people what they want to hear while ignoring future negative consequences or even the impossibility of some claims is a recipe for immediate electoral success but a governing failure in the long run. But hey, a well-informed voter should see right through the BS, right? Yes, but how should the voter get well-informed? With the free media, of course. Thanks to the free media, the voter can get informed on the current events and facts so that he can form an individual opinion.
Wrong.
What?
Wrong.
Why?
Wrong.
What happened? Well, change happened. In college, I majored in journalism, and most of our professors have told us that a real journalist should always strive to show both sides of conflicts and debates. My wife, who is a news journalist, actually times statements from representatives of opposition party and the ruling party just to make sure they get the same airtime. But something has changed when it comes to the media during the last 20 years. Someone has probably figured out that it's far more profitable for a media outlet to have a certain fixed, clear ideological profile. You can say that it has always been this way to some extent, and you would be right, but it has never been this strong and apparent. In college, I have been taught that it is not wrong for a journalist to have his own political views and even express them. But to do so, he is required to make a vivid division between facts and opinions. In many popular newspapers and TV stations, this line has been blurred for years, using manipulation and emotional language. This leads to opinions being not formed or changed, but only being reinforced, not leaving much space for public debate. But surely, old school media fails. Our favorite new information channels like social media should fix the problem, right?
Wrong.
The events of the Arab Spring and the Ukrainian Maidan made us hope that social media can be a wonderful tool in organizing spontaneous social movements against oppressive governments. But the way that Twitter and Facebook have been used during the latest American presidential campaign makes me think that it might be a reoccurring problem in the future. There have been so-called articles being shared on Facebook that not only manipulated facts, they were just not true. Even some of my Polish Facebook friends were really quick to inform me that Hillary Clinton is probably a part of a pedophile network. Conventional media require their journalists to check their sources and to take responsibility for the story. There are no such requirements for internet content, so it is completely up to the reader to check the source or not. Unfortunately, we are usually more inclined to believe negative things. Maybe it has something to do with us feeling better about ourselves because someone is worse. I don't know. The last threat to democracy I wanted to mention is the tyranny of the majority. That term is usually associated with the rule of the majority with complete disregard of the rights of minorities, whatever they might be. We've won the election, so we can do whatever we want. Such a statement is the essence of such thinking. Smart modern democracies usually have various safeguards in place to prevent a simple political majority to becoming a tyranny. So what is democracy? It's not a single system. It's an idea that nations and societies should govern themselves. And as an idea, it can never be fully made real. We can try and we have to try. Of course, it has its flaws. It relies on people knowing what's best for them. And we know that is not always the case. It also takes time to make a decision in democracy. In totalitarian and authoritarian systems, those who make decisions do not have to ask citizens what they think about a decision. A decision is made. Democracy is always associated with liberty and freedom. That is understandable, since self-governing gives the people freedom to choose and to decide what is best for them. An old man in white robes once said that freedom and love have to be always approached with a lot of responsibility. That is very true when it comes to democracy, because it places the power to choose in hands of ordinary people. And as a dead fictional old man once said, with great power comes great responsibility. That's it for today. I know that I have only skimmed the subject. If you want to discuss some more, you can use the comments for that. You can also give us a thumbs up or subscribe to see more of this type of videos in the future. See you, bye. Woof out.